I went from 10 years of ministry, never had another job. I worked at Paxson for like 2 days. And then Big Brother happens. From church to CBS. I could have just created great TV. But I said, in this moment, I can either create great TV or be a great human. Which one do I want? Double eviction. You need to put Mackenzie up. This is your shot. I'm like, no way in hell, because she's the only person that's gonna have my back in the end. They don't want people like me to win, or to be respectful, or to be kind, or to be intelligent. And why? How do I want my ministry and my life to look like? And I remember telling myself, I just never want to become like the people that have hurt me in the church.
Mega churches in particular have a really bad trait of taking young people, ringing them of their talent, and then throwing them to the curb.
Just as much as the church has hurt people and caused damage, also too has the ability to bring healing to a situation.
Yeah.
And I said, that's the type of person that I want to be. But I learned all that via the vehicle of Big Brother.
Welcome to episode 4 of the Figuring Out podcast. We got a chance to meet. My name is Matt Hardiman, and I am so thankful that you're here today. This podcast is all about all the things we're figuring out in life, and we have literally one of the best guests that I think we could have had on, not only to talk about their time on Big Brother, but also talk about so many things in their life that had led into how they played the game, and lessons and the beauty of what they're taking removed from it. So thank you guys for being here. You have no idea how much it means to me. The way you can continue to support us is continue to like and subscribe. And I'm so thankful that you're here, and I love you guys for being here. So let's get into this combo. The second guest we've ever had on the Figuring Out podcast. We are just moving and grooving at this point. Thank you guys for tuning in. And I am so fired up about today's guest. You have no idea. It is the one and the only winner of Big Brother 26, Chelsea Bayham. Chelsea, what's up?
What's up, Matt? How are
Chelsea, you're out here in
I'm in the
Atlanta.
ATL, baby.
I know.
California's better, but whatever.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, you walk outside, you can't breathe. What are we talking about?
Here?
Yes.
I'm not gonna lie, it's been hot since you've been here.
Yes.
Chelsea's been here for what, the last
Couple days.
Yeah. Her and Mackenzie and I are splitting an Airbnb in Atlanta. And man, before we get started, like I love being around you. Like,
Thank you.
Genuinely.
Thank you.
I was thinking about this last night. Like, you are such an easy hang. You're obviously a good hang, but you're an easy hang.
Thank you.
know
I
what
try
mean?
to be. I try not to be crazy.
mean,
I'm crazy, but I try to just be easygoing and hang. And y'all are family at this point. So
Yeah.
I'm like, MJ was like, I feel bad because I'm like, don't worry about me.
Yeah.
I'm cool. I'm chilling.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like you know some people, they come and visit and then it's like hard. You have to
Yeah.
like, entertain them, or
Yeah.
it always feels rigged.
Yeah.
I love being around you. I think you're a good friend. Our stories are so similar.
Yeah.
I think in even just the last couple of days, like us getting to chop up
Yeah.
some of the stuff that's happened in our lives and our experiences is like healing for me. I hope it's healing for you as well. It's so fun to chop it up. So
Thank you.
I love you, Chelsea.
love you too.
I really do feel like you're an amazing human being.
Thank you.
And it's an honor to have you on. And I
Just
want
keep
people
going. Just keep going.
You're
keep
like, what else do you like about me? Yeah, what else? What other trait? I just think, like, obviously people got to see you play an unbelievable game, got to see you go down in the history books as like one of the best players of all time to ever play the game of Big Brother. But like we mentioned in the last episode with Mackenzie, like sometimes the game, which is dope, like watching the game is amazing. It's fun. But the goal, I think, is when we get to get deeper into the story behind the lives of some of these people that we're watching on shows, and knowing you personally, your story going into the show is unbelievable. And you were a part of some amazing things. You had some crazy experiences like right up until the show. So kind of set the scene for us a little bit. Like, what was life like? Where were you at? Where was Chelsea at going into the show?
Yeah. Well, 7 years. Before the show, I was a nonprofit director. So I was working with youth.
Yeah.
So anywhere from 6th grade to college students. But I had from 17 to 27, I was in full-time ministry, and it wasn't an easy ride. I had been let go a few years back and went through a really traumatic experience with my church. Then I was thrust into another church, put into leadership at a high level. So I was just grinding and grinding and grinding for years. And it got to a point where there was a lot of stuff happening at my church before Big Brother. And I went to God and I said, this can't be the life that you want me to live. I was deeply unhappy, like depressed, all the things. And I said, like, obviously as believers, we go through stuff naturally. That's just part of life. But I don't believe that we're called to live a life where we're suffering all the time.
No way.
And so I'm like, I am a daughter of God. He wants to see me happy and filled with joy. So the
Abundant life.
100%. So the season that I was in, I wasn't feeling that. And so I remember in December, right before Big Brother, I prayed. I said, God, this can't be it. You have to show me what's next. And I felt like the Lord said June. And I'm like, I don't know what that means.
Who's
what do you mean June? Like, who is that? Is my husband? Because I'll wait. You know what I'm saying? So I heard June, and I felt like in June there was going to be some type of transition. It's in my journal. Wow. Whether it was transition in my job or transition in life, I didn't know. So I said, okay, I'm going to stay in this role at my job till June and then reevaluate. Well, January comes, and my friend, she was on Survivor. Shout out to Allie Elliott. Her and I, this is my pastor's sister-in-law. Her and I were at a birthday party months back, and I remember her and I talking about Survivor. And she was like, would you ever be on Survivor? I said, I'm not pooping in the ocean.
You think I want to eat crickets?
I'm not. What? You think I want to sleep on bamboo? Right. I'm not doing that. What are we doing? So I said I wouldn't do that, but I would do Big Brother. She said, oh, that's dope. So months later, fast forward to January, all she does is send me a screenshot from CBS's Instagram of that they were doing casting calls. So I lifted up my laptop in January in my room, and I recorded a 4-minute video. What's up, y'all? My name is Chelsea. I'm from Rancho Cucamonga, California. I'm single like a Pringle, ready to mingle. Like, I just was just talking.
Being you.
Yeah. And then I shut my laptop, and literally I said, if it happens, great. If not, I didn't lose anything.
What do you feel like the chances were that it would at the time?
Oh, I was like, oh, they're not gonna watch this. There's so many people who apply. But whatever, it doesn't hurt to try. I'm the type of person where the worst that can happen is you get a no.
Right.
So I was like, whatever, they're probably not going to see it, but I'm going to tell Allie, yeah, I applied. Okay, cool. So fast forward to February 13th, I'm at work, working in my office, and I get on my Apple Watch, it vibrates, and it says, hey, Chelsea, this is so-and-so from casting from Big Brother. Are you available to talk? I looked at it and I told my coworkers, like, somebody's trying to spam me. Like, it's stupid. Like, they spelled my name wrong. Like, this is not nobody from Big Brother.
Yeah.
I get back to my desk. I'm typing and something tells me, like, what if you're not being like catfished? What if it's actually legit? So I call about 30 minutes later and I'm like, oh my gosh, I think this is actually legit. So from February up until June, because casting takes forever.
Long.
I was going through turmoil at work at the same time. People excited about the opportunity, people not excited about the opportunity, people saying you shouldn't do it, it's going to ruin your reputation as a believer, like all of these. And I'm talking about prominent leaders in my life saying like, hey, wisdom says don't do this. And I was wrestling. And I said, God, if this continues to go forward, I'm believing this is from you. So if casting keeps saying they want me back, I'm just going to follow it. Until June came. Wow. And I remember my friend that I processed when I was going through all this stuff, she was like, didn't the Lord say something was going to happen in June? I said, you're right. Dang. I forgot. And my last day of work was June 30th. Wow. And I had to make a decision because I think you've mentioned this in another podcast. You don't really know if you made it on the show.
It's honestly like, it's so overlooked.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's always like when you're talking with these people, they're kind of like, if it happens, and you're like, it's been 4 months. What do you mean if? If it happens. Yeah. So you
they're
never
gray.
know.
They're like, and like, hey, pack a bag for 3 months just in case we choose you. I'm like, what?
You're like, where do I find a bag like that?
And how do I pack for 3 months in one bag? You know what I'm saying? All of my hair extensions are going to take up half the space in my bag. So they're very like gray in the casting process. So I left my job still with like, I could not be cast. But there was something deep down inside of me that said like, just take a leap of faith. you won't know unless you do it. So step into it. And I adamantly heard the Lord multiple times before I left, like, didn't I tell you June? And do you actually trust me? Because I've gone through seasons of life where I believe in God, but the question is, do I believe him? Do I believe that all things will actually work together for the good that those are called? Do I actually believe that? And I didn't at the time. So I'm like, okay, God, I'm going to trust you. I'm trying it. Please don't let me down. And I took the leap of faith, and sure enough, I ended up walking in the doors and seeing all the cast.
And so you were a super fan before being on the show.
Yeah, watched Big Brother since season 10. My mom watches every single trash television reality show you could ever watch in your entire life.
Really?
Every single day, she's watching everything. And Big Brother was one that me and my siblings, I'm like, what is this? What are you watching?
You're like, Alabama, sure.
Yeah, right? So she turned on Big Brother, and it became something that my family would watch together.
Yeah.
Very competitive family. And we love reality TV. So we started since I was 12, 13 years old watching the show. Wow. So my mom was geeking out with the fact that, like, you're going on the show that I introduced. This is insane. Yeah. So I was very aware of the show. People get mad when I label myself a super fan because I didn't watch live feeds before our show. But casting was always like, if you've watched it since you were 13, regardless of if you were a live feeder, you're labeled a super fan, just own it.
Yeah.
So anybody who wants to come for me, come for casting, because they told me I was.
Right.
So yeah, I was a super fan for over 14, 15 years.
So what held you back from applying every other year?
I just never wanted to really be on TV. I wasn't like, that wasn't a goal of mine. I wasn't thinking about TV. I just loved I watch a lot of reality TV too. So it was just one of the shows that I watched. I never thought, maybe I never thought about that. It took somebody else saying, I think you should do this, Chelsea, you'd be great at it. And I sat back and I'm like, I actually think I would be actually good at this. Doesn't hurt to try. Let me go on the show. But I was very aware of the ins and outs of how this game was played before I even walked into the house.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so funny. I think the first time I spoke to you, and I think we were like, I'm like, what do you do, whatever? And you're like, yeah, I'm a nonprofit director. I was like, girl, you're a pastor, aren't you? I was like, that. I know what that means.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. And I remember being like, she's trying to, like, I understand the title of what you were trying to say.
How come you think that us that are in ministry withhold that in introductions?
Yeah, I think sometimes it's because when you throw out this label, like you associate yourself with a religious construct, a faith construct, you also associate yourself with the stigma, with the judgment that may come with it. And I think a lot of times it's just not that simple, you know? And so at the time on the show, I was not a pastor any longer, but my whole life has been built around my ministry career. I did it for 5 years. I did ministry longer than I had been in the corporate world. But the moment I say I'm a pastor, like I've told people that when I was a pastor, and they're like, oh, you wear like a robe. You know what I mean? Like the stigma behind it can be confusing. Or if you meet somebody new, they may think, go ahead and assume things about your worldview, how you view society and culture, social issues, and that's not fair. It's not that simple. And so I agree with you. If I was still in ministry, I would have done the same thing.
On flights, anywhere I go, when people ask what I did, I would say, I help students make better decisions for their lives.
Right.
Because pastors and people in ministry do get a bad reputation.
Yeah.
Rightfully so, with a lot of stuff that's been
Absolutely.
going down in ministry. So I didn't want a conversation to be closed off from the jumps.
The moment
that people find out that I work in ministry. So so I was very intentional, as most of us are, going into the Big Brother house, that I don't want people to assume anything about me because of my occupation. So let me label it, I help kids. I think I said that in my intro, like, I help students, but it's like I pastor kids.
Right.
And I have for the last 10 years. So, but I was very cautious to see how my faith would affect how people viewed me in the game, until like day one when we were unpacking and I saw you pull out your Bible, Mackenzie pull out her Bible, Cedric pull out their Bible. I said, oh, this is a cast that like a lot of us have our Bibles.
Yeah.
I think I could be a little bit more open about what I do. And then you and I had a conversation and immediately, people who work in ministry, I think we could tell we speak the same language. I'm like, I know you
100%.
three.
Yeah, 100%. And it's hard to not
hide it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I knew. I just remember that moment. I was like, girl, you're a pastor.
Yes.
You can admit it.
Yeah.
And And you know, there's so many different layers and degrees of that. And obviously I talked about in previous episodes, like I worked for like one of the largest churches there is in the United States. And so it's kind of weird to talk about it. And I, you know, I didn't want to like shine such a light on that specific church, you know, in itself, but and the pastor or whatever, not for any good or bad reason, but it was just like, it's just not,
Wasn't
you know,
part of
it's not valuable.
Yep.
So it's just funny the way to talk about it all. And I was like, this girl's a pastor. So like, I'm even curious, like, how did you end up in the field of ministry? Like, what was it that brought you into that?
Yeah, I played basketball in college, and
You still hoop?
every now and then. I'm rusty. My knees
you
hurt.
feel
My
like-
back hurts.
Do you feel like you could like still get out
I
there?
feel like I'm a shooter. It's muscle memory. That doesn't go away. It's like riding a bike. So yeah, I can still hoop. Like, meet me on the court. Get your ankles broken.
Do you think there's a single person in our cast that could like actually guard
Beat me? Oh yeah, like Cam.
You think Cam could?
Cam could guard me.
Can
Yeah.
Cam hoop? Like, for
Cam
real?
can hoop.
Because he's athletic, but like, can he hoop?
Yeah, he can hoop. He can hoop. I think I'm a better shooter than him, but the dude can hoop and he's fast. I tried to race him and it was so embarrassing. Like he can hoop. He can really, and I hate to admit it, but he's good.
You're like, he can't play puzzles.
You're right, but he can't win
play puzzle.
competitions, but he can play basketball.
That's so funny. Okay, so you were playing.
I was playing ball at a Christian college and grew up in the faith my whole life. Parents were pretty much believers when I was very young. I got involved in ministry at a very young age. I was just very fascinated with the Bible, with how it made me feel, with just the historical text. I loved it. And I saw it change my parents. I saw it change me. So I'm like, I'm about this since a young age. Decided to go to a Christian college. I was playing ball. And actually, let me go back. Freshman year of college, I went to Biola, Bible Institute of LA. And they cut off classes for a week and you go to like a missions conference. So they bring in people from all over the world and you have to attend 7 sessions. And that's class for a week. So I loved it so much. I was geeking out. I went to every single session possible. And the very last session of the mission conference, I heard this girl, she was going to be preaching, closing out the conference. So I told all of my teammates, like, y'all need to come to this last session because y'all need to be saved, number one. Because athletes at Christian colleges, we're not we're all lost.
Your life is messy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I forced all of my teammates to come and I sat in a auditorium, in a gym with over 800 students. And this woman came and she preached the paint off the wall. She was very prophetic. She was well-spoken. And that was the first time, because I grew up in a more conservative church where you don't see a lot of women on the platforms.
Yeah.
So that was the first time I really saw a woman preach like that. And I was like, when I was sitting there, I was like, I think I'm supposed to be doing that. I think that's what I'm called to do. And it's one of those moments like you didn't know it was for you until
You know it's possible.
Yes.
Yeah. I
So
had the same thing.
Yeah, so I sat there and I said, I think this is what I was supposed to be doing. So I turned to my teammates and I'm like, I'm gonna be in that woman's life and she's gonna be part of my life for the rest of my life. And they were like, shut up, Bayham. And I'm like, okay. So I stalked this woman for like a year because I'm like, I just want to help. I just want to be around you, teach me everything.
You're like, so I find this woman's address.
Yeah, right. I found her on Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. And I was like, hey, if you ever need an intern or assistant, I'm available. Mind you, I'm a full-time athlete and student. I was not available. But I'm like, doesn't hurt. I have this thread in my life where I'm like, it doesn't hurt to ask. So after a year of rejection, finally, I get an email from her and she says, hey, if you're available in the next 45 minutes, I'd love to meet. I think you'd be great to be my intern or intern for A21, which is an anti-human trafficking organization that she worked under. So she's like, I think it'd be great if you came and intern for A21. So can you meet me in my office in the next 45 minutes? I'm in LA, she's in Orange County. I ditch class and I go. I sit there and we talk for about an hour and she's like, when do you want to start? I said, tomorrow. So I started interning for her for a year for free while still managing basketball, while still going to school. So I had been deeply involved in ministry with her for about a year. I was the captain of my basketball team in college, and I was running practice one summer, and I was dribbling the basketball, and quite literally I heard God say, the Holy Spirit say, you are not supposed to be here. And I'm still dribbling the basketball, and I hear it again for the second time. So I set the basketball down in the middle of practice. I tell my co-captain, hey, can you lead the rest of practice? I run to my coach's office and I said, you're going to think I'm crazy, because I think I'm crazy, but I think that I need to quit.
Oh my goodness.
Top of my game in basketball. I'm one of the best defenders in the league at that time, like at the peak of my game. I was like, I think the Lord's calling me to give it up. She starts crying. She's like, what do you need? Do you need more money? Do we need to recruit more players? Like throwing everything at me. And I said, I just don't think that God wants me here. So I quit. Mind you, my parents didn't have the means to get me through college.
Yeah.
Sports did. Like I worked my butt off because I knew that's the only way for me to afford college. So me giving up basketball that's a huge financial risk I'm taking. So then I got to call my dad. Hey, Dad.
God told me to quit.
Right?
Yeah, he's like,
who? Which God are you talking about?
God don't talk like that.
He's not stupid, you know?
Right.
So I said, you just need to trust me on this. I said, but I'm going to try to go to my financial advisors and see if they can give me more aid. I go to my financial advisors and I tell them exactly what I just tell you. And they end up working some things out to what I got in scholarship, they were able to give me in other aid.
Wow.
So the Lord was just very good in that. And a week after I quit basketball, I didn't tell the girl I was working for that I quit.
Yeah.
I just quit. So she takes me out to lunch and she's like, hey, I've been praying and I just don't feel like you're supposed to be playing basketball. I said, that's so funny. I quit last week. And she's like, well, that's interesting because we now have the means to bring you on part-time.
Wow.
Because I was working for free for her. And she brought me on part-time when I was 18 years old. And from 18 up until Big Brother, I was in full-time ministry. And that's how I got started.
That's so funny. I had a mentor tell me one time, because I think I was kind of like, how do you know you're called to ministry?
Yeah.
People always say that. I've had people who've listened to the first 2 episodes of this podcast where I talked about, when I felt like I got called, you know, and when I felt like that was burning in me, and been like, hey, listening helped me discern that I feel like I'm called. And, but I think it kind of begs this question, like, how do you know you're called to ministry, or how do you know you're called to anything,
Yeah.
But specifically with ministry, I had a mentor tell me, they said, it was so funny. He goes, if you can do anything else besides ministry, you should. And he goes,
that's so real.
Yeah. And he goes, you're called if you can. And I was like, dude, there's nothing else that will scratch the itch right now.
Yep.
And I similar. I ended up changing my major, changing my life, my goals, everything, and went in all in on it,
100%. And I was against going into full-time ministry. I was peak athlete, comfortable. And I went to school. I got my degree in communications with an emphasis in media studies. I wanted to be on ESPN. I wanted to talk about sports.
Here. Same. That's exactly that was my plan too.
That's it.
I would reason with God. I would be like, I'm gonna do this.
Yeah.
And know I'm gonna end up in ministry one day. But I don't want to. I said in the first couple episodes, I was like, I don't want to eat ramen noodles the rest of my life. I don't want to be broke. Let me go fine tune my communication skill. You've given me that talent. Let me do that. And I'll end up there one day when I've built up my life to be comfortable. Yeah, it was a financial thing, because with ministry, it comes stigma.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was like, I know I can exceed in the communication world, especially with sports. So I got my degree in that. And then the Lord just said, no, there's a different route, and I just took it and continued to stay in that lane. So I never planned on it. I never had dreamt of being in ministry at all. Planning churches, becoming a creative. I became a creative director because the girl that I was like, let me intern for you, the help that she needed, she was like, I need help with my social media. I said, bet, I got you. Had never ran any School of YouTube and School of Google, became literally my professor. Yeah. And I said, I don't know.
You give me Canva Premium and let me cook. Yeah.
Listen, call me a pro.
Right.
So I'm the type of person where if I don't know it, I'm gonna figure it out. Right. So I didn't let my boss at the time know that I had no idea about marketing. So I figured it out along the way.
Fake it till you make it.
And I did in ministry, and I became really skilled in it, where I was being looked at by multiple churches saying, how did you get from here to here? So it was one of those, like, God, I don't know what I'm doing, but I trust that you're going to help me along the way. And that's exactly what he did.
Yeah. So looking back on your ministry experience. It's very similar to mine.
Yeah.
You know, like you just mentioned, like you ended up getting let go. You know, I ended up getting let go. Bring some insight to that. Like you're in ministry and you have this passion for people to know God. I feel like sometimes when we say we worked in ministry, people are like, you're basically a nerd for Jesus. And I'm like, that totally undermines it. It's just that I have seen life change happen in my life. I've seen it happen in, like you said, your parents. We talked about this the other night. I was listening to this podcast with Forrest Frank where he brought up this phrase where he was like, I've just been ruined for the ordinary.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's how I felt when I gave my life to Jesus. Like it turned everything around for me. I was going nowhere fast, brick wall after brick wall, ruining after ruining. And there's no other explanation. It just changed my life, you know?
100%.
And so talk about that, like in ministry and now transitioning out of it, kind of how do you look back on that time?
Like transitioning out of ministry and how that was?
Yeah, like when you're in it, you have this passion for God, a passion for his church, passion for the model of how churches operate. You're learning a lot. You're a creative director. You're moving into different avenues of ministry. How did that affect you? You know, like in today's world, as you look back on your time spent working for a church, how did that affect you at that time?
Working for the church and being like I worked for a startup, like I helped plan a church from the ground up, but we became very successful very fast because the pastor over the church was already very well known in the Christian world. So we started an unorthodox startup church where we blew up. And then from there, when I got let go, I worked for a mega church. So I had seen everything. I had traveled with this woman for 4 or 5 years. At every single conference you could think of, I'm rocking with her. So I saw so much. Ministry taught me everything good about myself and everything bad about myself. To be completely honest, it made me and it broke me at the same time. It taught me how to. Revealed the communication gift that I had. The girl I worked for, she called it out of me. She was like, I think you have a gift. Your first sermon's going to be in a prison in front of 500 men and women. I'm like, so she forced me into using this gift, which I think was one of the best things that could have ever happened to me. But also in ministry, you are, in unhealthy ministry, you are taught how to become a professional faker, where you show up to spaces and you're not fully well, but you gotta learn how to put that aside for other people. Yeah. So it brought out the best in me, but it also highlighted, it created some habits in me that I wasn't very proud of, that it's like, I'm literally faking it until I make it in almost every area of my life. I wouldn't be who I am though today without it. It's taught me endurance, it's taught me resilience, and it's taught me that God really does have my back. When you see the faithfulness of God, not just in your life, but people around you, you can't help. I've tried to run away from it so many times. Yeah. And it just keeps pulling me back. So when I got let go, I was like, I'm never working for a church again, ever. Because little insight on that, I got let go in a very unorthodox way.
Same.
And I'd love to hear how that happened for you if you're comfortable. But I planted this church with this couple, traveled the world. I was at Thanksgivings, Christmas, like intimately involved with these people and their kids and their siblings and their nieces and nephews. I became family to them. And to the point where this woman said, if God never gave me a daughter, you're better than 10 of them. Like, that's how tight we were. We did ministry lock and step together. I walk into their marital therapist's office, and that's where they let me go with no rhyme or no reason. Yeah. And these are people I would have died for, like people that I loved deeply. Letting me go in this way felt very blindsided. And I'm like, what? I was too shocked at the time to dig and ask the correct questions. I was 23, 24. Yep. So I was so young. I was like, I didn't even know the right questions to ask. I was just trying to handle my grief. And when I got let go, it progressively got worse. The stories that were told, lie after lie. I'm like, analogy that I use often when I share this story is pastors, leaders in the Christian context are viewed as shepherds. They help guide you.
That's literally what pastoring means.
Pastoring means to guide, to shepherd.
To shepherd.
And when I was explaining this to my therapist, I said, it feels like the shepherds that God's given me, they take their staff, the staff that's used to guide, to influence, and they beat me with it. That's what it felt like. Like the thing that you're supposed to use to guide me, you're using to abuse me. Yeah. And so in that moment when I got let go from people that I loved, I was like, I'm never doing this trash again. What are you talking about? I never want to go back into ministry. Because when you're scarred by an institution or a group of people that are supposed to help love and heal you, it's like, why would you go back?
It's supposed to be based off of the life of Christ.
Yeah.
And when it seems to object each other, contrast each other, you don't necessarily know how to hold that. Like the church is supposed to be the safest place for any human being.
Yeah.
And not every church does that well, but you would think that being employed by a church, it should be the healthiest environment you've ever worked in. When I left working in ministry and then went into the corporate world, I sat at a table of directors that I had never connected with. Yeah. They had no care to ever connect with me. I was extremely young. And then when I went to the corporate world, you know, there were more people in the corporate world that wanted to see me close the big deal, that wanted me to ring the bell. I closed the big, you know, 6-figure deal, whatever. More people in my corner celebrating me, celebrating the small wins, and, you know, encouraging me through the hard times of sales and grind and whatever. In a ministry, I sat at a table and felt like I was around 7 enemies.
Oh yeah.
7 people trying to fight for more budget dollars, trying to show that they're a better communicator, that they're more qualified to get a better position, a bigger opportunity, speak in front of the bigger crowd. And I remember at the time, you know, I've talked about this on previous episodes, but I didn't get into it to speak in front of big crowds. Yeah. And I had a gift of preaching in front of big crowds, and I knew that. But the more that I did it, I recognized how little actual tangible effect it can have. I remember the biggest crowd I spoke in front of, you know, whatever, thousands of people. I remember getting done and just being like, this is what everybody's hyping up. Like I remember walking out. When you're in front of such a large crowd, you can't see anything. And it's almost too much for your brain to process, that it just like turns off, because you can't individualize every single person. And so then it just starts to feel like you're performing. Yeah. I felt like that sermon in particular that I preached, which was one I'm to this day, I'm proud of. Like, I think it's one of the better sermons I've written and spoken, but it felt in the moment like a performance, because I couldn't look at somebody.
Oh, 100%.
And the danger is like, I'm good at performing, you know, but I didn't get into it to be a performer. I used to tell people all the time, if I wanted clout, if I wanted a platform, you think I would have gone to ministry? You know what I mean? Like, you think this is the best route to do that? But there's a toxic thing happening in Western church in that regard, where we've created these celebrities. We think that the only way for us to identify with Christian culture is we gotta wear, you know, camo cargos. We gotta have tattoos. We have to fit into some little cultural niche within the church. And even in your story, I relate, because churches mega churches in particular, have a really bad trait of taking young people, wringing them of their talent, and then throwing them to the curb. Yeah. And I hated that. That's exactly what I feel like happened in my story. I went in a failing ministry, grew it, made it healthy. I mean, just literally God, like, sparking revival. Yeah. But then, you know, when I need help, when there's areas that I was young. I mean, when I was a pastor, I was 23. Yeah. And nobody stepped in to help. When I'm crying out, you know, I need help. I need somebody to help me process this better. I'm working 50 hours a week. Like, I can't figure out some of these things. I'm wrestling. I'm 23. How do I date? How do I deal with my emotions? You know, all these things is so difficult. Yeah. And they wring you of your talent. And then the moment that you can't be their dancing monkey, you can't be their robot, they'll just kick you to the curb. Same thing happened with me. When I got let go, there was one other director out of the 7 campuses that I sat at that reached out. Wow. And was just like, hey man, like, I heard, and I just want to say, like, well done, good job. Yeah. And I'm excited to see what you do next. That is in church. When I left my corporate job, you would have thought I was going to be the president. People are celebrating me, cheering me on for the next thing. It's unbelievable.
It's interesting, yeah. And in that same token, that's what happened to me at the church I helped start. And then when I got tossed to the side, and months had gone by, and I didn't tell anybody. I was living in Orange County with my roommate, just suffering in silence, grieving in silence. And because I still was trying to reconcile what in the world was going on, and things just kept getting worse. Yeah. So, but I remember posting on Instagram, so stupid and silly, but I had a Snapchat filter that I put on Instagram that made me a high-pitched voice. I was like, y'all, the devil's trying to get after me. I got ulcers in my throat. How do you even get ulcers in your throat? And I'm in Mexico, but like sick because I have all these ulcers in my throat. And one of my pastor's wives from the church I grew up in back in Rancho, she said, girl, you are too young to be having ulcers in your throat. What are you stressing about? I said, I didn't know it came from stress. She said, yeah, what's going on? Via Instagram DMs. I said, well, I did get let go from my job a couple months ago, so that could be the reason. Wow. Immediately, all of my pastors from the church I grew up in, my phone is blowing up left and right. A week later, I find myself in my old pastor that I grew up with, his office, just having conversation. So in the same way that the church has abused and misused me in those same ways that they have for you, at the same token, I had a church that decided, let me bring Chelsea in and pastor her and help her. And so God was so faithful in not letting my bad church experience be the last thing that I experienced. Because I probably would have, I considered like, if this is what people of faith do, I don't think I want to be on this team. Yeah. I had that consideration before the church that I grew up in decided to take me in and allow me to heal. So I was so grateful for that. And it's so crazy that, because I've been treated all sorts of ways in ministry. And then Big Brother happens, right? Talking about this shift from ministry to I went from 10 years of ministry, never had another job. I worked at PacSun for like 2 days. That was it, okay? Selling jeans, okay? Yeah. So worked it and had never bought anything from PacSun before that. So right. I'm selling a dream. So I had only worked in ministry up until I was 27 going to Big Brother, right? Yeah. So from church to CBS, right, night and day. And I had some situations that happened in the Big Brother house that they cut the live feeds off of, that I was, for the most part in the Big Brother house, very strong. There was not a lot that could make me cry other than winning a competition. And, but there was a situation in a house that broke me in a way that I didn't think would. And I remember crying all night, getting called to the upstairs DR and speaking to executive and sharing like, this is what I am dealing with. How do I deal with this? Because this situation, I could blow this person's game up, but at the same time, it might blow their reputation up. And I don't know if I want to do that, because it's this more than game at this. Like, I'm personally affected. And I don't. So
break that down a little bit. Yeah. Blow up the reputation of.
Like, if I would have shared what was said in the house, this person would have, out of context, this person would have been made to look like a really bad human.
Sure. And that's for that person. Yeah. But also the reputation of who you are and what you represent.
And what I represent. Yeah, right. Yes. 100%. Because I had to wrestle with that a lot. Like, I can easily cause a scene on TV. Right. I can easily pop off at the mouth.
But that's what people want from you.
Yep.
Right.
So I talked and I was processing through with this executive, like, I could easily blow up. And I've restrained myself this whole season so far. If I do this, it has a lot of implications that will follow. It will do a lot of good and maybe a lot of damage. And she instructed me in a very loving, biblical way. Mm-hmm. She was like, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I'm going to say, however you are outside the house, you have permission to be like that in the house. Yeah. So however you deal with conflict outside the house, you have permission to deal with conflict that same way in the house. You don't have to make this a game in this moment. You can just be Chelsea, who is a child of God. And I was like, I sometimes don't even get that wisdom from people in the church 100%. Who tell me to go make it right with a brother, who tell me to go forgive. And I was guided in some ways in doing that. And that was so crazy to see even how production, and you can speak on this, Mackenzie can speak on this, especially because we lived in a house for 90 days, the way that we were loved and cared for and protected. I was like, I I haven't, this is what I was craving for from my spiritual leaders. And
Yeah.
y'all don't even have the tools,
Yep.
which is crazy.
Yeah.
So I was just so well loved behind the scenes from production, helping me, because Big Brother is like kind of psychological turmoil. Whether you win or not, you're going through some stuff. And the production members and assistants were literally like angels to me.
They level with you. Like,
They care about you. They care about your heart. They care about your mind. I remember crying in the hammock one day, just going through it. And they were very attentive to, this is not game. We just want to make sure you're fine.
Right.
And I'm like, it shed a light on not every church, but some of the structures I've been a part of, which is mega master crazy churches, sometimes lose that ability to just care for people because it turns sometimes into a business. And when I got that in Big Brother, it shifted in that moment. I'm like, now what does ministry look like outside of this house? Because I've seen ministry be done in a secular sense unintentionally, and I've seen it be done in the church. What do I want to model after I get off of Big Brother? And I wrestled the last 3 weeks with that concept.
I'm super passionate about what you just said, because as somebody who's worked in vocational ministry, you and myself, we have firsthand experience, encountered the ways that the church model, especially in the West, especially in America, for me, in my context, especially in the South, are not filling specific gaps and is leaving ministry off the table. People, and when I say ministry, it's leaving off the ability to reach people that need it. And I can say that because I was one of them that they missed. The model was not able to reach somebody like me at the time, because there was nobody that looked like me. There was nobody that could talk like I talked. There was nobody that was going the places I was going. And it left a huge gap of myself and people like me, and it still is to this day. And so to your point, the beauty of, I feel like what I feel like God is calling you to in this next season of life, and showing you, revealing you, teaching you, is that some of these like third parties, people want to call them paraministries, but I think it's just change happening in culture of ways that things like this podcast, that's why I'm doing this, like, because I feel like things like this podcasts, that certain social communities, community constructs, run clubs, gyms, coffee shops are filling in the gaps that based off the Western representation of church model and structure are getting to fill, and it's more effective.
Because it's reaching those people that actually need it. And I'll always go back to, like, the church is supposed to be a place, it's a body, but the building is supposed to be a place for sick people. Yeah. And when it gets to a place where people are not being healed or attended to, it's like going in a waiting room and no doctor coming to get you. Yeah. And you're bleeding out. Right. And I don't want to generalize every church, but specifically in the Western culture, you just see a lot of people bleeding out and they don't have a place nowhere to be healed. And so I remember reading a book before Big Brother called The Perfect Pastor. And it was this guy that grew mega church, crazy, everything successful. And then, but he got home and his wife handed him divorce papers. Like, you're doing everything right in ministry, but your home life is trash. And then he started to reevaluate what it meant to be a pastor, what it meant to pastor. And in the first chapter, he said, it was so profound to me, so simple, but he said, when has coffee dates become not enough for pastor? Taking somebody out who's hurting for coffee and listening to them. When has that not become enough? Because becoming a pastor in the Western world now is oftentimes associated with having this crazy large platform,
being a communicator,
speaking and being unable to be touched, to be spoken to. Like, we're far removed. We become a clique in the club that you can see but you can never experience. So this pastor is like, when it just seeing somebody who's hurting and say, hey, let's go get dinner, let's go get coffee, I want to hear what's going on. When did that not become enough?
I get so fed up with that, because it's the lamest part about Christianity. Like, the thing that so many people are convinced is what they need to subscribe to or buy into to be a part of Christian culture and community and faith communities, whatever. It's the lamest part of it. Like, thinking that the mega church experience at the big show, being like singing the song and being in the in crowd, especially for young people listening to this, that you have to subscribe to a certain look or style or whatever in order to fit in. That is never supposed to be the case in followers of Christ. I hate the fact that so many American Western Christians think we're going to get to heaven and it'll look like America. There will be no diverse place in all of eternity than heaven. It will be the most diverse place in the entire existence in time.
Yeah.
And so I can't, I get so fed up about it. And it's cool that you got to see that through your experience.
Through Big Brother, I got to see like,
oh wow, the good I can do outside of
four walls of a church.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Because that's all I knew before Big Brother. And I thought doing ministry looked like vocational ministry.
Yep.
And that is how partially when I was young and very like in my formative years of ministry, I was trained in ways to believe that.
Yeah.
Like this is what ministry looks like.
Right. Because they will tell you the local church is God's vehicle of redemption.
Yes.
It's the only way to do ministry. It's his bride.
So if
right?
you're not serving at a high capacity or there all the time, am I really serving God?
Right.
And so I got to see ministry be done differently and be effective as well. And so I remember getting off of Big Brother and evaluating, and I'm still in process, but evaluating what does ministry look like. And in this season of my life, one of the holiest things I'm doing is being there with my siblings. Because I gave 17 to 27 to the church, neglecting my relationship with my family, with my cousins who are hurting as well. I'm like, the holiest thing I can do right now is be what I was for the church to my family. That too is ministry.
Yeah.
And I've had to become not okay, but realize that my lifestyle is a vehicle.
Yeah.
So no matter what space I'm in.
Because we are the church.
We are. It's not about.
You are a part of the vehicle God uses to bring redemption to the world.
So I felt like
goodness.
after Big Brother, God's like, ministry is where you decide to take me. And I'm like, that's actually very, very true. And it makes me sad that I limited my viewpoint to think ministry only looked like this. And so that was huge for me, and how production treated me, even how people in the Big Brother fan base, Big Brother alum, some atheists, some agnostic, how they've chosen to love me. I'm like, y'all are loving me in ways that I haven't really been loved in the church.
Right.
It opened my eyes. And so I remember making, this is maybe a side note tangent, but I remember because after Big Brother, I've been hurt, scarred, and abused by churches. And now I'm in a place where I'm like, okay, I get to start, I have a clean slate.
Yep.
What do I get to do? How do I want to be? How do I want my ministry and my life to look like? And I remember telling myself, I just never want to become like the people that have hurt me in the church.
Yep.
So I said, Lord, show me a different way to do ministry so that another young Chelsea doesn't have to spend 10 years healing. I don't want to have to send another student who has to be in 5 years of therapy because that's how I treated them. So I said, Lord, I just want to be in a position where I don't want to be like the people that hurt me. How do I get there? He's like, you're going to have to forgive those people that hurt you. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And funny enough, maybe a week ago, this is recent, one of the pastors that was a participant in letting me go, and a participant in a lot of the damage, reached out to me. And we got to have this conversation where there was forgiveness, reconciliation, and healing. And I think just as much as the church has hurt people and caused damage, also too has the ability, if people choose to lay aside their pride and their ego, to bring healing to a situation.
Yeah.
And I said, that's the type of person that I want to be. But I learned all that via the vehicle of Big Brother. Like I was like, I never thought that Big Brother would teach me a lesson that ministry and loving people is much bigger than how many hours I can serve in church.
Yeah. Wow.
Like, when did it become about simply only works rather than just being a child of God who loves people well?
Yeah. And I think that's dope because it's happening everywhere. What's happening is, I think God is inspiring and calling young people like us to fill the gap.
Yep.
And I think this podcast is an example. That's why I'm doing it. I think the things that you create and the things that you're associated with and that you're going to continue to do on your opportunities and careers are going to be exactly that. And we're just two examples, I think, of what is happening in a movement of young people, especially in the West, of saying like, I'm tired of the inauthenticity. I'm taking a stand that the model that has been presented to us of how to interact in Christian community and in worship to God is missing the mark.
Yeah.
And we're not cool with that.
Yeah.
And I think that's dope.
And we want to be part of the solution. I have to be checking on that. Like, I have a lot of complaints, but am I doing anything to be part of solving some of the issues that I have within ministry? And it's far from saying that I'm perfect or I have this figured out, but I do know what it feels like to be hurt by people who are supposed to love me well. So with all the things in ministry that I've experienced, I've often questioned God, why? And now as I get older, I feel like now you see what to do and what not to do.
Yeah.
You now have information to move forward, and you get to make a decision how you choose to treat people. And it's been, I wouldn't change, and I don't think I would have said this a year ago, but I wouldn't change a thing in the last 10 years of what's happened to me. Yeah. I wouldn't have changed the fact that I got let go, that I got lied about, that the people that I lost my best friend, my boss, my pastors, my community. Like, I would not change that, because it built a resilience in me that I think even helped me stay mentally strong in the Big Brother house. Yeah. I can say, and not to toot my horn, but I had a mental strength in that house that I think the past 10 years has prepared me for.
Absolutely.
Not a lot could break me in that house.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all the bad things that happened in my life helped me succeed in that type of environment and not break down. So I wouldn't change anything that happened in the past to me, but I will let what that thing happened to me change me for the better.
Sure.
It could either scar me or it can make me better, and I get a choice in that. I'm like, I'm not gonna choose to become bitter Betty Baham because people in ministry just chose to mishandle me. But now that I have that awareness, I'm like, I get to choose how I choose to handle people in the future. So I'm grateful for all the crappy church experiences that I've had.
Absolutely.
Because it teaches me how to not
because God is using them for good.
He is, and which is what he said he would do,
right.
Which goes back to, do you believe God or do you believe in God?
Right.
Which one?
Right.
And I'm like, dang, you're right. You do what your scripture says.
Yeah. And I think it's a good caveat, because I want you to talk a little bit about how that integrated into your gameplay.
Yeah.
Because as someone like you who's a Big Brother fan, but also this life change that's happened because of your relationship with Christ, your ministry experience, what you have done and worked at for so long, and then knowing so much about the show, right? It's inherently a game that is built with the tools and the manufactured to be built around lies, manipulation, all of those things, deception. How do you hold those two tensions? Do you feel like you have to? I know one thing that I think you're an amazing person to talk about is understanding, like, I'm playing the game.
Yeah.
Like there's a game of Big Brother, but this is also who I am. And how do you put boundaries around, this is who I am, but I'm also playing a game that we all know we're signing up for. Yeah. Where do you put boundaries and parameters around that?
That's the hardest thing, I think, with Christians who go on this show specifically, that's built around like lying and deceit and manipulation. That's like what Big Brother is known for. And at least the longer you get into the game, the tension is not the tension, but I viewed Big Brother as a game.
Yeah, because it is.
Because it is.
Yeah.
And because I had never experienced it, so I didn't even feel, when you're watching it, you don't feel like it's heavily a game, but it's also a lot living life.
Yeah.
So when I went into Big Brother, I'm like, I'm just playing a game. In the same way, like, my family's very competitive. We want to chop each other's throat off on game nights, right? Yeah. So it's like, I'm the type that grew up in an environment where if it's game night, we don't care about anything but winning.
Yeah.
Like, we're just going to be cutthroat. And then after, when somebody gets in their feelings in the game,
love.
after it wins, it's like, what are we having for dinner?
Right.
That's what I had. That's how I had compartmentalized when I got into Big Brother, that I'm going to play a cutthroat game, but there is a fine balance when you're not playing game necessarily 24/7. You're playing the game, and then you're having dinner with somebody and you're just chopping it up about life. Right. I have to become much like, I think men do this better than women. Men are able to compartmentalize. Men are able to have separate categories. Women usually put mold everywhere. And we talked about this the other night. Everything is just, I had I think what I did very well that helped me with that tension is this is game. This is real life. Yeah. So it's like when I'm in game talk and I'm strategizing, I am playing a game and I am going to work this to the ground. And I'm like, okay, cool, that's done. All right, what y'all want to do? Yeah. And when I turned it off, I then became Chelsea. And if you want to use Mackenzie as an example, when we're having game talks, I am gaming. But then when we're in our bed having a glass, or we were in the bathtub together. We were in the bathtub.
Hey, live feeders, can we find that clip?
We're in the bathtub together having a glass of wine, just enjoying each other's company, talking about the hurts that in my mind, I am not thinking, how do I manipulate Mackenzie in this moment? Yeah. I'm thinking, and that's what caused me to really like Mackenzie. In the beginning, I was like, this young girl, what is she not? Leave me alone.
Yeah.
And then when I started to have those moments, I'm like, those non-game moments, I started to learn who Mackenzie is, who all these people in the house are. And I'm like, I actually am growing to love you. That is separate than game. So I have the ability to turn it on and turn it off. But there is this tension because I could have easily and had the right in a lot of times in Big Brother to pop off on people. There's a line morally, and I had a lot of validity to cross that line. So that's where I believe my faith stepped into, where I'm going to handle this not in the way that Game Chelsea would handle this. I'm going to handle this the way that Chelsea, a child of God, would handle it. So it's this fine line and this tension where I had to have discernment on, is this game or is this real life? And to know how to shut certain things off.
So for people that don't necessarily have that perspective going into the house, and there's no line of game, real life, what would you speak to that?
Yeah, I think that, number one, some people don't even have the ability to separate them. Wow. I think it's very few people that have the ability to separate game versus real life.
Yep.
And I think that's one of the greatest things that you can do in that environment. To play game 24/7 and not care about people is going to affect you in one way. And then to only care about people in this vicious game is also going to affect you. So what I would say to people who are even watching or eventually will play a game where faith is in an environment of lies, deception, and deceit, is there is a line that you can cross. But also realize this is just, it is a game.
Yeah.
And what people see on the show, what people see on a Wednesday, Thursday, Sunday show is simply game. But they're not necessarily seeing me taking a bath with Mackenzie, like talking about life,
cooking food,
or cleaning. Just talking about our families. We knew each other's parents' names, siblings' names. We knew their character before we even met them.
Yeah.
So it's like, yes, it is heavy gameplay, but it's also heavy living. Yeah. And some people don't know how to separate, but I think I did that well in the game, and it helped me love people well in the house, but it also helped me play a great game. And I think that both can be done, but it takes a lot of maturity and wisdom to do it. I think it's very hard. I think very few people know how to do both. Very few people.
Yeah, and we were talking about this the other night, is that sometimes when people cross that line, it would, if they chose to not, there was a way to not cross the line and get the same result. You know what I mean?
100%.
Like, it's like you could have made the same move and not cross the line, but you chose to cross the line. And that's kind of what's messed up about it.
Yeah.
But there's a way that you could have not, and it would have given you the same result. You could have not brought up someone's family member. You could have not sworn on that thing. You could have not told that specific lie that was past the line, and use something else, utilize something else. And it would have gotten you to the same direction. But because you did, now we're in this conversation of like,
now you're mixing in morality with game, and that's what I heavily am against. They should be separated. And when people cross that line where they start to use race or family or nephews and nieces, which we've seen in previous seasons, also ours, when you start to use that then you crossed the boundary for me.
Right.
And so that was my barometer.
Because it's over the line and also unnecessary.
Yeah,
right.
Because I was able to play a game where I didn't have to call out people's races or their family members in order to accomplish a game move. I didn't have to do that. I just had to play Big Brother. So that was the line that's like, but I was aware I could have.
Yeah.
I'm like, I have free will to cross the line and completely damage this person.
And also be able to, when the game was over, profess and show I was just playing the game.
Yeah,
Right. You have that freedom.
100% have that freedom. But that's where I think my morality helped keep me level-headed and also humble in those situations. But yeah, there was a line that I easily could have crossed. And if I could be very real on this podcast, as we're figuring it out together, I don't think I had because I am a Black woman, didn't have the space to.
That's what I was about to ask you.
Yeah.
Like, I want you to dive a little into that. Like, the identity part of those decisions that you make, right?
Yeah.
The freedoms that someone else might have are different from the freedoms that you might have, and ways that you can play the game and moves that you can make.
Yeah.
Speak to that a little bit. Like, what pressures do you feel? Because I feel like I've learned a lot in listening to you talk about this, because I obviously did not have the same pressures that you did on you and so forth, right?
Yeah.
And so I think there's a lot of value in the way that you talk about this. It's benefited me a lot.
Yeah, and thank you for that. In reality TV, and in life, you see there's a want for people to tear people down. That is what we view as entertainment these days. And you talked about it on your podcast. But specifically with Black women, you see this on a lot of reality shows, Real Housewives of Atlanta, for example, where you see all of these Black women who are given these massive platforms and they use it to quite literally beat each other up and tear each other down.
Yeah, what was that story you were telling me? Dragging somebody's hair, it's got the most likes, the most hits.
Yes. So there's a season of Real Housewives of Atlanta where there is a reunion at the end of the season. They get together and there was an actual fight where a girl took another girl by the hair and pulled her down. It was one of the highest viewed reunions. But if those girls that were all Black women look back years later, they were like, that wasn't the best representation of who I am. I wish I would have did that. They never say I would do that again.
Yeah.
And they realize, hindsight, that we have this platform and we could have used it to uplift. The world does enough degrading Black women. Why are we doing it to each other? So they use that platform and realize, I think I mishandled that platform, but the world is waiting for that. They want girls to be, Black women to be against each other. So, or to lash out. And there is this stigma of the angry Black woman. And they're waiting for us to pop off at the mouth, to go. And I knew that. I had an awareness of that. So in the Big Brother house, when there was heated situations, there was two things that was causing me to respond different. Number one, I don't want to feed into this narrative of the angry Black woman. I can't.
Yeah.
There's enough of that on TV. But also to my faith, I can't be up here popping off, going off, doing this and that, and also claim to be a believer. I can't do that. So there's certain things as being a Black woman that caused me to respond differently, because I said there's enough Black women who are fitting that stereotype that the world places on us, that they can't handle their emotions, that they are obnoxious and loud, unintelligent. That is the stigma, unfortunately, that Black women are given. Malcolm X says the most disrespected person in America is the Black woman. And I completely believe that. Even when I got off the show, fans wanted me and Taylor Hale to hate each other. Wow. And I'm aware of that. And I've taken I'm not going to hate a person simply because y'all want it. Yeah. I have to be different. You have enough toxicity in TV when it comes to Black women. So in Big Brother, I was cognizant before going in the house. I said, if there is an environment or a situation in which I can respond differently than how America wants me to, I will. And I remember a veto meeting where Tucker popped off on us. It is the infamous veto meeting. And I recently looked back at the comments and people were like, Chelsea is strong for just getting up and walking away. Yeah. And everything in my flesh and my knowledge of the game at that point, I could have and I'm a communicator. Yep. My greatest gift is my greatest weapon. I can kill you with my words. Right. In that moment, immediately, I had a whole monologue that I could have just created great TV. But I said, in this moment, I can either create great TV or be a great human. Which one do I want? Right. I chose to put aside my 2.5 minutes that could have made me this crazy, polarizing player, or I could have held to my standard to say, nah, I'm not going to feed into that narrative just because it's going to maybe go viral for a second.
And guess what? You won. Yeah. You won the game.
So it's like, what are and I'm not knocking people who choose to go on and be characters, but you could either people go on Big Brother for two different reasons. I tweeted about this, to be a character, and that's fine, or to just play Big Brother and and be a normal human. I chose the latter, and I think my choice was fine, and I don't regret my decision. But I had to. We can't, especially with Big Brother fan base, have to be very real. They don't want people like me to win, or to be respectful, or to be kind, or to be intelligent and wise.
Yeah, and obviously I relate to that.
Yeah,
you know, because
100%.
I had the exact, similar situation in my own regard, where I knew that the stereotype of who I am and what I look like if I were to respond in a certain way in this situation is damning towards my life.
Remember when the whole like Crazy Eyes thing happened? I remember walking in late and I see you sitting in the corner and I'm like, don't stand up, don't do it, don't do it. Because I also too am thinking about the most minor things that you can do. It's gonna blow up. There is a microscope on people of color, you and I, and I'm like, you couldn't respond. You can't.
No, you can't.
You can't, and you didn't. And I'm proud of the way that you responded in that moment, even in finale. I'm proud of the way that you responded because, number one, I felt like it was an appropriate response, but also two, I think it was a great representation of people of color. You don't have to fit into this stigma of bucking up and I'm gonna give you exactly what you gave me. Right. You didn't do that, and I think we need more of that on TV.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And so in the context of Big Brother, to the person who says, this person is bringing back old Big Brother, we want old Big Brother, how do you reconcile that? What would you say to people that are trying to pit old Big Brother and the new era against each other? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, this season of Big Brother, Rachel is dealing with that right now, where I think she wants to play old school Big Brother, but she's like, I feel this pressure that I can't play old school Big Brother anymore. So from a game perspective, I'll give you a game and fan base. From a game player perspective, a lot of people are timid about playing old school Big Brother because if you played old school Big Brother, you will be canceled immediately. Some of the stuff that people did on Big Brother years ago, you would immediately be canceled. But the reason why they had the freedom to do that is because they didn't have social.
Was different.
Yeah, they didn't have social media, and culture was different. They didn't have to think about when I get out of this house, our live feeds are going to be absolutely everywhere. They didn't have to think about that. Social media wasn't a thing. But also people who have a desire to bring back old school Big Brother. I'm like, you want to bring back a toxic environment that quite literally damaged people, because it was nice to look at, but go look at the people who were on the other side of the animosity of Big Brother. It ruined a lot of people. It jacked up a lot of people. So for me, it highlights where culture is at, where we care more about entertainment, and entertainment being people tearing each other down, being toxic, more than realizing that actually damaged people. Why do we like this?
Yeah, and we've talked a lot about this the last couple of days, and it's why I'm such a fan of you as a winner of our season, because you do not have to be toxic and rude and degrading and dramatic in order to be entertaining. Those are not synonymous.
I agree.
You can be entertaining. You can play the game of Big Brother. You can actually lie. You can actually enter into conflict. You can actually argue without being toxic and demeaning and degrading. And it can still coexist with being entertaining.
100%. You don't have to cross that line. And here's the thing. I love watching the reality shows of not even reality, because a lot of reality shows are actually scripted. This stuff they're saying you guys are going to fight. All that stuff, they're signing up to fight. Big Brother, we're not signing up and they're telling us to fight, they're not telling us any of that. So this is a lot of this is actually real that people are dealing with. When you're watching all these other reality shows, they're setting stuff up to be fights. They're setting that stuff up. So for me, I'm like, I just don't subscribe to people wanting other people to tear each other down and consider that being the best form of entertainment.
No way.
I disagree with that. And you want people to continue to, and the crazy part is when we get off of Big Brother and we get the fan base also doing the same thing, tearing us down. And it's like, why? Put yourself in our shoes for a second. Anybody who says bring old school Big Brother back, I would argue, put yourself in the shoes of the person that is on the receiving end of the animosity. Would you still want to watch that?
Yep.
Would you still want to watch? Imagine if it was your kid. Imagine if it was your niece or nephew that was on the receiving end of that animosity. Now, I'm not saying that I don't want entertainment. I'm not saying that I don't want drama. But there's
conflict.
But there's a way to do it, is what I'm saying. There's a healthy way to have to pop up. There's a healthy way to do it where you're not crossing lines. or really misusing or abusing people. So there's this fine balance. So I'm saying I want the drama. I want all of that. But when there's a line, and we don't have to cross it in order for it to be deemed as entertainment. But what we praise continues to grow. And unfortunately, culture praises unhealthy behavior. So people go on these shows wanting to have unhealthy behavior because they know that's what will grow.
Right.
And we're feeding it.
And I feel so passionate and fired up to profess and make a claim, to proclaim my life will not be a part of that.
Yeah.
My life will not be a part of the rhetoric that you have to tear somebody down to be entertaining. And I hope that my life is continually an example and truth of that. And I will not take a stand in alignment with culture to say that toxicity, degrading, talking down on people, whatever that may be, is the thing that I will continue to praise. I refuse. And I want to see the stories of connection. I want to see the stories of friendship and relationship, of overcoming, of working through pain and wounds together, which happened in our season.
And which is why people don't like the fact that Mackenzie and I actually love each other. They hate it. Like an interview supposed to show, it's like, were you really going to take Mackenzie? I'm like, I have no reason to lie to y'all. I won already. Yes, I was. And you guys just hate the fact that storylines can change from not really rocking with some. That's real life. There's been countless amount of times where I've met somebody, I'm like, I don't really like them. And you sit in a conversation, you're like, oh shoot, I actually misjudge you. I actually like you. They don't want to share that story. People don't want to praise that. When I'm on TV again, I will continue to be myself in that. And I know what gets views. And I'm just like, I'm not going to subscribe to changing who I do. Not be transformed, or do not be conformed by this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. I could be in it.
That by testing you will discern what is the will of God, what is good, acceptable, and perfect. 100%. And you are a dope enough human being that you don't need to scoop to that level to be entertaining. No shot.
And here's what I do want to make clear. I don't have the expectation for people who aren't believers to hold themselves to that standard. That's the world. But what I will challenge more believers who do have a platform, who do go on reality TV and have this space, don't feed into what culture wants you to act like.
We're here to make a claim. We stand up to that.
We're here to shift it. So that's my claim that I'm making. I'm not telling everybody that they have to do what I do or act how I act or behave how I behave or believe what I believe. But those who do, when you have those platforms, when you have that opportunity, use it wisely. Because I think a lot of people get in those spaces with the cameras and the lights and the money and all that, and they say, to upkeep this, I got
to be something
that I'm not.
Right.
And for me, it's like, I hope I am an example that you can play a dope game. You can play a game like Big Brother, but not treat people like an ass in the process.
100%. And I think you're an unbelievable representation of that. And in closing, I want to get into a little bit of like the last bits of the game. Obviously you and Ken's go back and forth winning. Back to back.
Probably boring.
It's like
TV,
Magic, Larry Bird, just back and forth. And I'm like, this is unbelievable. You guys just absolutely demolished, steamrolled, ran through everybody towards the end. And it's sitting, you three at the end. I know I asked Mackenzie something similar towards the end, but what are you thinking in the final three? I know a moment that you've brought up is like the cotton swab moment. You're over here nervous about votes. Like, did you feel nervous in the final three?
What they didn't show, like on live feeds and in DR session, was I had a moment in the Big Brother house where, because in the DR, their job is to ask you questions to get you to think differently about different scenarios. So obviously, Mackenzie, Cam, and I all experienced this where they're like, are you going to take Mackenzie or are you going to take Cam? What would happen if you take Mackenzie? What would happen if you take Cam? You have to consider, they're causing you to consider both options. So I remember a couple weeks before finale, as I'm having a lot of these DR sessions where they're asking like me to consider, I'm like, my head tells me to take Cam. My heart tells me to take Mackenzie. And this is a huge decision. So I'm wrestling through this. And I remember in the Big Brother house feeling like the Holy Spirit told me like, follow your heart in this. Do you trust me? But I remember in those final moments where I'm like, do I follow my heart? Because if I do, I could potentially be giving up $750,000. So as a game player, Chelsea, that is a wrestle for me. Because that's where I'm separate. That's where the game and personal comes. But in that moment, I felt like in this moment, my heart, and I feel like God's saying, follow it. Follow what you feel is your heart is telling you to do, which was take Mackenzie. But in that moment, it was Mackenzie and I going back and forth. And honestly, the game shifted for me and my heart started to shift for what the ending looked like when I was put on the block. And you know this. And Mackenzie does. When you're put on the block, people act different. People 100%. Just start acting different. And Mackenzie started to act different, but in a very good way. She was the only one updating me. She was coming up, I think you're fine. I'm like, I think this girl actually likes me.
Rocks with me, yeah.
And I don't know why, but let me just hang out with her more and see how this really is. Hung out with her more and more, and we just like grew to really love. I grew to love her because she liked me before I liked her, but I really grew to love her and have respect for her. And genuinely, from week 4 and the rest of the game, we worked together. There was not a decision that we didn't run by with each other. So love Cam, bless his heart. And people get on me all the time. Cam, you were Cam's number 1 from the beginning. It's like, Cam is a man of very few words.
And wins.
Yeah, and wins. Love him to death. He's one of the greatest men I've ever met. But in the Big Brother house, the fan base saw his DRs. I didn't.
Yeah.
So I'm only seeing what Cam is giving me, and it was very minimal versus what Mackenzie was giving me. And Mackenzie and I had the most power in the house the whole game.
Yep.
At any point, Mackenzie could have thrown me under the bus. And at any point of my 4 HOHs, I could have thrown her under the bus, but we constantly proved to each other that we didn't. Yep. So as I'm in the final 3 and I'm evaluating if I'm going to lose, what is a lose that's worthwhile? And it's that one. Love Cam. And I wish all 3 of us can split first place, but we couldn't. But if you look at the live feeds, which this went viral, I'm literally have Q-tips because you can't write anything. You can't take lip liner. You can't take notes. So I got some Q-tips and I'm literally counting, doing stats versus me and Mackenzie. Because I said, there's no way statistically that I can beat this girl when it comes to comp wins. I am that nervous. Like, I didn't think finale night I'm getting a 7-0. And I even told Cam, and they didn't show this. I told Cam sitting down with him, Mackenzie was in the shower, and Cam and I were sitting there. Because Mackenzie, honestly, every time I was HOH, you would think Mackenzie was HOH because she was like, she was in the HOH shower, living her best life. So she was pampering.
I'll just say, Rowena, she lives her life that way. Yeah. Welcome to my life.
So she's pampering herself, and this was a couple of days before finale, and I'm sitting with Cam, and this is like, I never verbally said, hey, I'm taking Mackenzie. I never told him that. Yeah. I would only say it in the DR. So I was like, hey, so are you going to hate me if I win this and you know what I'm going to do? And he said, no, you guys are the only 2 that deserve first and second. I'm not going to be mad at you all. I said, okay, great, because that's what I'm going to do if I win.
You're like, sounds like I got your vote.
Yeah. so I'm telling Cam that, which they don't show. But also I said, okay, where do you think the votes lie? Because I said, how do you think I can win over like a Quinn? And he's like, what are you talking about? I said, I'm sitting next to her. I need a win. I'm not going to have Angela. I'm not going to have Leah. I'm not going to have Quinn. I may or may not have Rubina. He was like, you're going to be fine. But from a person that played a game, a perfect game, I did not have the awareness because I played the game with Mackenzie that I was going to win 7-0. I did not think it was going to be that way. Wow. Not remotely. I thought it was going to be 4-3 and it could go either way based on our speeches.
Wow. Which
is a testament, I believe, to Mackenzie's game that I don't think is given enough credit. The fact that the perfect winner had trepidation, and it shows in the only time they aired me studying my speech. I only studied my speech against Mackenzie, and I studied. If I felt like I was going to do a 7-0, I would have said A, B, C, D, E, F, G on the freaking live show night, right. and had that. But she played such a phenomenal game. She gave everybody a run for her money. And honestly, and I'll say this in closing, because I have the gift to communicate and storytell, I can make an argument for Mackenzie's game that would beat me. I would be able to tell her story in a way where people will vote for me.
Yeah.
I had the level of persuasion. So to say that she played a stupid or dumb game, I would argue that. I would say the way that she communicated her game was less than the way that I did on the finale night, period. So she played she gave me a run for my money. Like, she was literally the hardest person to beat in anything.
Yeah.
And that needs to be respected. And I thought that there was a chance that I was going to lose finale night. And I think people need to just like put some respect on her name and her game, because from a winner who has a knowledge of the game and who played it, she played a hell of a game.
Yeah.
She did. And as did I.
Is it weird, like with a 7-0 vote, and you feeling that way? Like, how do you kind of hold that together?
Yeah, it felt like my win felt hard to fully celebrate, because I felt like, I'm like, not one vote? Like, I would have voted for Mackenzie. So it felt hard to celebrate because I felt like it was at the expense of her and her game. And I didn't feel like that was fully warranted. I felt like there could have been a little bit more balance and evening out on how that game ended. And I'm not negating the fact that I played one hell of a game. I know I ran that game to the ground.
You deserved your win.
Yes.
Yeah.
She also too deserved more credit. 100%. And that's what made it hard for me at the end. I was shocked by 7-0. And everybody's like, you're stupid for being shocked. I'm like, no, y'all are stupid for not seeing. Yeah, I ran circles around everybody in the house. But also, we protected and shielded each other. Yeah. I wouldn't have been able to get to the final two without her. And vice versa, we protected each other. And I don't feel like that gives enough respect in the very end.
I hate that a lot of times people will talk about that final decision and undermine the fact that what you just said, since week 4, you guys ran through.
Oh,
you
everybody.
Unbeatable.
But nobody could beat her.
And it was unbelievable to watch. Literally back to back.
People were like, this is boring. We know it's either going to be Mackenzie or Chelsea. But as a player, it's like, if somebody is evaluating Mackenzie, Chelsea, who's playing with us, they're not taking us to the final 2. So her and I had those conversations a lot where I'm like, the only way we sit in these chairs is if we get each other there.
Yeah.
And that was my mindset. The only one that's going to double eviction, you need to put Mackenzie up. This is your shot. I'm like, no way in hell, because she's the only person that's going to have my back in the end.
Yep.
And I'm the only person that's going to have her back in the end. They didn't show this. This is one of my favorite moments. We were walking up to do the final HOH game, and Mackenzie's like, you better not turn your back on me. You better not. And I'm like, bro, I'm not. Either of us can win. We know how the outcome is going to be. But we truly had each other's back in a way that nobody else would have had in that house.
Yeah.
And she deserved to sit, and she deserved to hold my hand while that confetti is coming. Derek and I just talked about this. Derek from season 16, he said, I would have never been able to win if it wasn't for Cody.
Yep.
He's a huge part of my win.
And similar to Derek and Cody, similar to y'all, people want so badly to pit one against the other, when the beauty of the story is in the way that they aligned with one another to get themselves even in the opportunity to sit in the final 2 chairs.
100%. And now they are brothers still to this day. They're intimately involved in their families' lives. And so for me, I'm like, that's how I viewed Mackenzie. Yeah. And when I talk about my win, I wouldn't have been able to win if it wasn't for her.
Yeah.
So my win doesn't feel like only mine.
Yeah.
It feels like hers as well. And so that's what makes me a little bit upset. I'm like, y'all just be very clear. We wouldn't have been able to get here if it wasn't for each other. I wouldn't be a unanimous winner if it wasn't. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Mackenzie.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Like, she's one of the greatest gifts to me in this game. And I want people to give her a little bit more respect than that. To call her a dumb player or anything like that. I'm like, somebody who has helped, somebody who started from the bottom. Just like I was a microchip, she lost you. We both started from the bottom and made it to the end together. So I would say, if you're watching this, if you're listening, from a winner, I wouldn't have been able to do this without her. So give her a little bit more respect in this game, because she earned it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And that to me is a great way to end, because it's just as dope to watch as a fan, as a viewer. I watched from home, as a live feeder, watch the edit of the way that you guys work together, and watching you guys go, hand in hand, back and forth, running through the game was just as entertaining as the way they wanted to portray that final 2.
Oh yeah.
They wanted you to pit you guys against each other. They wanted to be like, Cam is more up in the mix than maybe what it is. I think, in my opinion, getting to watch you guys work together was the beauty of the story of our season.
Yeah.
And I think it's super dope.
Yeah. And I love that when people Google Big Brother 26 winner and they see the confetti moment, they won't see it without Mackenzie. And that's how it was intended to be.
That's amazing. Well, I love that. Well, you know, last but not least, what's next for you? Like, what are you dreaming about? What can we expect for everybody who's a fan of yours, who loves you, as do we? What can we expect?
Expect to see me more on television this year.
Yep.
Yeah, expect me to get more involved in hosting and still involved in Big Brother in a heavy way and maybe some other projects in the future.
Yep.
And then expect me in the future, y'all will see me still doing ministry. It's just going to look different.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Amazing.
a lot of fun projects, still a communicator of God's word and for God's people. It just looks differently in the season. So a lot of fun projects coming up that I can't spill quite yet, but keep your TVs on and YouTube channel open. You'll see a lot of me. Yeah.
Heck yeah. Well, if you're listening, continue to follow Chelsea. I can attest that she's just as dope and real and authentic in person. You are probably the person I love the most, like from this experience, because you're called and you're going to do big things.
Thank you.
And I love that the fact that even in both of our callings, we have the blessing for some of that to have some overlap.
Yes.
And so I'm in your corner. Me and Mackenzie both are.
Thank you.
And we love you. And thanks for being here.
Thank you. I love you guys.
Come on.
Figure it out, y'all.
Figure it out. Hey, thank you for listening. If you're listening today, we hope you liked this episode. And if you did, like and subscribe. Continue to follow us. Follow in our community of what we're trying to build here. We have nothing figured out, but we're here to have conversations about what we are figuring out so that you don't have to do it the hard way. So we love you, and thanks for tuning in today.